Now, I said there are basically five peace treaties that brought the First World War to an end. Now, what most people fail to realize, what you fail to realize is that the Versailles Peace Treaty that they talk about all the time only brought the war to an end between the Germans and the victorious powers. Remember, in the last class, I said the war was fought between the Allied forces and the Central Powers, or Triple Entente and Triple Alliance. Now, Germany was the main aggressor. That was why we concentrated on that of Versailles. Germany was the main aggressor. That was why we concentrated on that peace treaty of Versailles. The treaty was signed in 1919, and it only brought to an end one phase of that war. So there are about 4 other aggressors apart from Germany. So what the victorious powers now did was to sign individual peace treaties with them. And that was why I said you have 5 peace treaties, and you must know this because you see it in the exams. So you have 5 peace treaties. The major one you are aware of is that of Versailles, and that Versailles is just one. So Versailles is between Germany and the victorious power. Then the Treaty of Saint-Germain was signed between the victorious powers and Austria. Saint-Germain was signed between the victorious powers and Austria. Then Trianon was signed between victorious power and Hungary. Neuilly was signed between the victorious powers and Bulgaria. Then Severus was signed between the 5 peace treaty was used to bring the First World War to an end. So you have the Versailles, Germany and the superpowers, and the victorious power. And when I say Germany and the victorious powers, I'm basically referring to Britain, France, and the United States. So you have Versailles. 2, you have Saint-Germain, that's Austria and the victorious power. Remember, Austro-Hungarian Empire. So that was why they were picking them one after the other. Then you have Trianon, the victorious power, and Hungary. Trianon, that's Trainon, Saint-Germain. Instead of German, just put I before the N. Then you have the 4th one, Neuilly, Neuilly. That's between Bulgaria and the victorious powers. Then finally, you have in 1920, Peace Treaty of Severus, Severes. In 1920, that would have been the end of the First World War. Now, that Severus was signed between the victorious powers and the Ottoman Empire. Then there was no Turkey. It was known as the Ottoman Empire. But the Turks, please listen, and this answered the question I asked in the other class that I could not actually answer. But the Turks rejected that treaty in 1920. So they fought Greece and other powers in 1923. So it was in 1923 that they signed the Peace Treaty of Lausanne, and that brought the First World War to an end in 1923, not 1920. They signed that peace treaty in 1920. The Ottoman Empire rejected that treaty that was signed in 1920. So they fought those guys that imposed the treaty on them, especially Greece, and they were forced to sign a new treaty with the Ottoman Empire called the Treaty of Lausanne in 1923. And that brought the First World War to an end. Again, every war usually comes to an end at the end of signing of the treaty. If there is no treaty, then the war has not ended. That is why they said the Second World War is still on till today, because there has been no agreement signed between North Korea, aggressor back then, and the victorious power till today. So technically, they said the Second World War is still on. That is why North Korea is very, very aggressive till now. But First World War came to an end officially from 1919 and terminated in 1923 with the signing of the Peace Treaty of Lausanne. Now, quickly, because of time, what are the terms of this peace treaty? What people will tell you is that the seed for the Second World War was sown in that peace treaty of the First World War. That the remote factor responsible for the Second World War was located in that peace treaty itself. Nigeria fought a civil war in 1967. By 1970, that war came to an end. You know what Nigeria was saying? No victor, no vanquished. There was a reason why. You know, you say when you are victorious, be careful, don't rub it in. When you rub it in, it can create a feeling of resentment. Everybody had 0, you have 5, and you're like, thank you, Jesus. Oh God, thank you, Jesus. You know, you are happy, you are joyful, but then they'll be feeling bad. That you had 5, you keep quiet about it. And when they ask you, what did you have? Exactly. Because you start getting enemies. Only you 5.5, others 1.0.1.5. It's not your fault that they're having 0, but they won't actually see it that way. You know how many times you pray for rich people to fall? Not that they offended you now. It's just one day this man should just even have malaria. He should just miss class. Something terrible should even happen. And why is it only just the poor people that is all? Now, quickly, let's look at the terms of these peace treaties. And of a truth, the reasons for the Second World War, part of it can be located in that peace treaty. How you celebrate when you win a war matters. How you celebrate when you win a war matters. That stuff is key. So how you celebrate when you win a war. Now, you don't celebrate to the extent of creating resentment on the people you've defeated. Because when you create resentment in them, then they'll be looking for what they call revenge. So that means you get part 2 of that conflict. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So how you celebrate at the end of every war. That was why Nigeria was smart enough to say, no victor, No, but even despite that, we are still facing problem with that thing. Despite the fact we didn't actually celebrate. But in the case of the First World War, the French and the British, they celebrated. In fact, their favorite song was Hang the Kaiser. That's hang the German emperor. Squeeze them. Take everything from them. Take them back to the Stone Age. Make them poor. In fact, part of the terms of the peace treaty, and I'm not making this up, was this, that the Germans will pay all the orphans in both Britain and France, and the widows whose husband died during that war, that the German will pay them. Every family in Britain and every family in France. Once your husband died in that war, it is the Germans that will take care of your family in Britain and in France. And all the orphans, down to their education, down to their family, everything was put on the German. Not only that, they forced the German to be working in their own country for the British and the French economy. Everything that they were manufacturing in Germany were taken back to Britain and to France. Of course, now it made sense for that thing to create feelings of resentment in the German. And that was what led to the rise of that madman, may he so rest in peace, Adolf Hitler, in 1939. That started the Second World War. So first part, terms of the treaty, one, for Versailles. German territories were taken away from it. German territories were taken away from it. So German territories, both within Europe and outside Europe, were taken away from it. Please write these stuffs down. It's important because you have to analyze this thing. It's not just recitation of history. So German territories were taken away from, importantly, and you should know this, Alsace-Lorraine was taken from Germany and given back to France. So Second World War, Germany started that war to take back that territory from France and back to Germany. Alsace-Lorraine was taken from Germany and given to France. Importantly, even if I didn't teach any other thing, I have to teach, importantly, German territories were taken and given to Poland, and Poland took it. You know, there are some gifts you reject. German territories, Danzig, was taken from Germany and given to Poland. So it was not surprising in 1939 that it was from Poland that Germany started that madness, that Second World War. German territories were taken and given to Poland, which is not a crime. The crime was that Poland accepted that gift. So it was so bad. This was what they did to Germany. Poland is landlocked. There was no Poland before the First World War. So when the war came to an end, they then wanted to create a territory for Poland. Now, Poland is landlocked. When I say landlocked, that means it has no access to water. You know what they now did? They divided Germany into two and created an expressway for Poland to the sea. And Poland took that land from Germany. That was why in 1939 now, Hitler said, I'll destroy Poland. Whatever you do, whatever anybody says, if you know you want to die with Poland, join them. And she invaded Poland and destroyed Poland aggressively. In fact, when we were talking about negotiating with people that defeated, Hitler said, I'm not interested in talking to, I want to wipe Poland off the face of the earth. Forget about them. They're not even people we should negotiate with. But she was angry because Poland now said, but we were given, and he said, you accepted. You are not even scared, but you took it. And you enslaved my people on my own territory. That was 2. 3. Outside now, France and Britain shared German territories in Africa. They're in the Middle East. So France and Britain explains why in some part of Togo they speak German, in some part of Cameroon they speak German. But initially, those regions actually belongs to Germany. So German lost territories. That's according to the peace treaty of Versailles. Then 4, Germany was forcefully disarmed. They said that Germany can only have a troop of less than 100,000, and they can only serve for 12 years or thereabout. When you have less than 100,000, you cannot invade another country with such troops. They were trying to check the German from becoming the aggressor to threaten Europe again. So they were trying to stop the German from being able to threaten Europe in the future. 5, if you like. And I'll probably leave that thing. The Germans were forced to pay reparation. They were forced to pay reparation for that war. So they were forced to pay in today's time. That thing will be about $545 billion. And we are talking of 1920 back then. The French and the German wanted them to pay. And the British wanted them to pay for that in perpetuity forever. Is it not when you are failed, you have enough food in your stomach that you don't have any problem, any worries that you don't think of invading other countries? But then when you are busy paying off debt. Now the treaty that was signed between Hungary and the victorious powers led to the dismemberment of that empire. That was why there is nothing called to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. That treaty led to the dismemberment of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. 1, importantly, it separated the two countries. That is why you have them independent till today. Austria, then you have Hungary. So it separated the two countries. 2, all those territories under the Austro-Hungarian empires were given their independence. All those countries under the Austro-Hungarian Empire were given their independence. It's the same with that of Turkey. That was when the Ottoman Empire stopped being the Ottoman Empire and it became Turkey till today. Yes, all the territories under it had their independence too. They were given their independence. In fact, Russia too was dismembered as a result of that war. That was what led to the creation of those three Baltic states: Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. Then on top of them, you have Finland. All of them came into existence at the end of that war in Europe in 1919. 1920 was when they started signing. 1919 was when they started signing all these their treaties. That was why I said 1919. But came to an effective end by 1923 with the signing of the Peace Treaty of Versailles. See, Ottoman Empire was lucky. Some part of it is in Europe and some part of it is in Asia together. That's why you can't place them till today. They are sometimes in Europe. Ottoman Empire is a Muslim country and they've been trying to become a member of the European Union. They've not succeeded because of one thing. Europeans will never tell them that. But because they are not a Christian state. European unions are Christian states. The Turks wanted to be part of that European Union. And since 1980, they've been giving it conditionalities till now. But they didn't just want to tell them that you guys are Muslims, we are Christians, so you can't join us. But they were unfortunate, or rather they were unlucky in Europe because Ottoman Empire straddles two continents, both Asia and Europe together. I'm only giving you the background to why it straddles two continents now because of that first World War. It was part of the agreement that all territories, all former territories outside the Ottoman Empire should be given their independence. So when they did that thing, Turkey took European Ottoman Empire. Greece took European Ottoman Empire, Adrianople, if I remember, Crete. Took them. So that was why those guys rejected that treaty, Versailles, in 1920. I said, no, you cannot push up just back to Asia. We have a European heritage. So they fought Greece and pushed back into Europe with the Peace Treaty of Versailles, and they were able to enter and stay within Europe till today. So that's why when you go to Turkey, it's both Oriental and European at the same time. Please, can I continue? Any question? Okay, before I leave that topic, remember that thing, it was, they said the Peace Treaty of Versailles was based on what they call the 14 points of Woodrow Wilson. The French premier said when the American president, Woodrow Wilson, when he came up with the 14 point, you know what the French, what was that, Clemenceau, I think that was the man's name. You know what the man said? Sorry, how many commandments is it that God gave the world? 10, okay? So he said the good Lord only gave 10 commandments, but America gave 14 commandments. So the good Lord himself, that's a testament to America's hubris. Only had 10 commandments, but America is coming up with 14 commandments. But they had no choice. They had to accept. America emerged from that war, the most powerful state, the most successful state. So she had to impose her will on other states. What are the terms and conditions of this 14 point? Let me just mention some. One, that waters, there should be free navigation of ships on the high sea. There should be free navigation of ships on the high sea. The water does not belong to anybody, it belongs to everybody, just to avoid war. They discovered that thing created problem. This is my area, that is your area. You cannot trade there, you cannot trade there. So free navigation of ships, international shipping on the high sea. Two, importantly, that diplomacy should be conducted in the open. That it was secret diplomacy that started the Second World War and the First World War. Diplomacy should be conducted in the open. So that if you have any secret agreement with anybody, before I fight you, I would have been aware. I'm not only fighting, I'm also fighting that person. Remember now, triple alliance, triple entente. People thought it was just Austria that was being stubborn, not knowing that Germany was the one behind Austria pushing it. So people also thought that it was just France that was just being aggressive, not knowing that Russia too and America too were somewhere behind. So they said, keep that agreement open, terms and conditions. When they invite you to join a secret society, if you are not a fool, you ask for the terms and conditions. And they told you are going to be rich, no problem. It's just rich, you heard. But they didn't tell you sacrifice your first son. But you are now rich now. You are now saying, but everything should be laid in the open. When you enter into lawsuit, they give you their terms and conditions. Remember, and you signed now, nothing secret. It's a different thing when you've now entered, they now say you are not allowed to use your phone, you are only allowed to go around naked, you are not allowed to, you say, but that was not in the agreement. So that was what that treaty says, that to avoid all this deep war, to avoid war, inadvertently, countries should be made to do their diplomacy in the open. 3 or 4. Then I'll leave it again. It was agreed that states that were under other European states, should be given their independence. States that were being colonized by those empires should be given their independence. So that led to the creation of different kind of unbelievable states in Europe. Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, but they were all new states that were now created in Europe as a result of the peace treaty from that war. So quickly, League of Nations. No, that's not the reason why. They knew that before. See, probably you are not getting it was America itself that championed the creation of that league. America was forced to engage itself in that war. Remember, I explained that in the last class now. Now, to stop them from killing themselves again and creating problems for everybody, That was why America actually championed the creation of that league. Why did America refuse to join? Yes, sir. No, no now. If you don't answer that question, you have carry over. It dictated by it's Germany that had the right to complain that the peace was actually dictated, not America. America, Britain, France were the one imposing the peace on Germany, and that was why you had the Second World War. They call it a diktat. So we'll get to that one in the next class. Why did America refuse to join? In fact, let me shock you. The president was willing to join, but he was humiliated. They embarrassed. Why would Congress say no to such a wonderful initiative? How can you say isolation again? They had already participated in the war now. Money. All the other states are poor. Is America running them? That has nothing to do with the budget.
Some of the policy that
No. They said no now. I saw they're already out. They've been forced to join that war in 1917. So it has nothing to do with isolation. If isolation were the reason, then their president wouldn't have been going around looking for support for that League of Nations. In fact, America blackmailed France and Germany to sign, France and Britain to sign. They had wanted to destroy Germany completely. It was America that said no. When you destroy this guy, they'll create problem in the future. Be like gentlemen. This man said, and this economy. No, it's not economy. Wait. Why do you think they are against you burning a criminal? Armed robber, now that you've caught, they've been terrorizing your area, that you don't manage to get one. Why is the state against you burning them? When you burn a criminal, an armed robber on your street now, they will arrest you and jail you for killing a criminal that you know is a criminal. Even if the person is a murderer. American system, the judicial system is so scary. They caught a man, a student that killed, I think, 5 students that knifed them to death. In Nigeria, I followed that story. I saw the evidence. I saw the knife. They've done all the fingerprints. And they still said this man was not guilty. Until he had been taken to court. And I've seen the evidence. So, and people testified that they saw him do the man even confessed that, and they said no. He did the killing about 2 years ago. The case is still in court till now. But if it is Nigeria, So why did America not join? You didn't think I've told you now, when you read at this level, you are not meant to just take everything as if you are meant to question, to ask relevant questions now. That's why you pass in the exams, not repeating the same history that everybody is going to write. There is a cogent reason. League of Nations was established in 19... No, I'm sweating already. I want to leave. It's 10. No, I have another lecture. Let's just finish this thing. No, I don't want to stress your brain. The weather is hot, so let's just go. No. Don't worry. You get it online. Check ChatGPT to give you the answer. Okay, I'll tell you towards the end when I'm almost through with the lecture. I said I'll tell you towards the end now when I'm almost through with the lecture. I'm not going to tell you anyway. So I don't want to waste my time telling you anything. This business I do with you are not shame. But then I'm not stressing. Now, the League of Nations was created to ensure peace among the Europeans. Though they say the world, Europeans were the world. League of Nations was created to ensure peace among the Europeans. So they will say it was created to maintain peace in the world. Now it was meant to have 5 permanent members and 5 non-permanent members. It was meant to have 5 permanent members and 5 non. Now, so you have 5 permanent members. Unfortunately, America's refusal to join made that thing 4. And unfortunately, Japan also withdrew from that League of Nations, making it 3. Finally, Italy also pulled out, making it just 2. So it was just Britain and France that were the members of that League of Nations. They were the ones shaping affairs of the League of Nations. It was not surprising that the League of Nations eventually collapsed. From 5, it became 4. From 4, 3. Then from 3, it became 2. And interestingly, Japan that pulled out became an aggressor, invaded China. Italy that pulled out became an aggressor, invaded Ethiopia, Abyssinia. Then America was now withdrawn across the water that you're on your own, please, I'm tired. So it was just Britain and France. So it was not surprising that Germany was able to rise up later again to challenge the world. In fact, Britain even withdrew, leaving only France. And it became a problem for France. France is the next door neighbor of Germany. So if Germany is going to start any war at all, it will start with France. So France was now doing like a prostitute all over Europe and the world, looking for allies. France begged America. America didn't listen to France. France appealed to Britain. Britain had already reached across water separate Britain from the rest of Europe. So France now had to turn to, like I said, they said they held their nostrils and turn to Russia, just come and sign. So that at least she will have that protection from Germany. After signing with Russia, she was now begging all these small boys, even Poland, just come, sign, guy, let's defend ourselves together. All because of the fear of Germany. That's why they said the fear of Germany was the beginning of wisdom. And France was right. She's been shouting since 1990 that, look, if anything is going to happen, Germany is going to fight me first. And Germany number one's target. You know why? Because France took Alsace-Lorraine. They gave it to her and she took it. And by 1939, Hitler demanded back for that territory from them. You know why they call it a lightning war? Hitler was a madman. That guy took France within 2 weeks. Belgium, he just took them within some 3-4 days. Just took all of them, just like that. And turned them to Germany's vassals. Don't worry, we'll get to that in the Second World War. So let's finish with the League of Nations first. So the League of Nations has some principal organs. You have the Council. You have the Council. You have the Assembly. You have the Council. You have the Assembly. Then you have the Permanent Court of International Justice. You have the Council. I think those are the principal organs. Then you now have what they call specialized organs or mandate territories. Specialized organs or mandate territories. But then you have the Council. Then you have the Assembly. Then you have the Permanent Court of International Justice. Council, 5 permanent members. Executive, I've mentioned their names already, minus America. They eventually became 2. The Assembly belongs to everybody. I think it was about some 49 countries that formed the League of Nations. Ethiopia was the only African country that was a founding member of that League of Nations. And unbelievably, the same Ethiopia was the country that Italy attacked in 1935. So I say you have the Assembly. Everybody in the world belongs to that Assembly. Then you have the PCIJ. Now, that court was meant, now listen, it's the same power that the ICJ now has. ICJ has declared Vladimir Putin a war criminal that should be arrested. But they don't have enforcement capability. They can only make pronouncements. They don't have the police force to enforce their decision. So that was the PCIJ then. It can only mediate in economic and other social matters, not political. Political is meant for council. Interesting question. Why did America refuse to join the PCIJ? Permanent Court of International Justice. America didn't join now. In fact, when she wanted to join, she gave some set of conditionalities. Others said, go. We don't want. Quickly. By 1939, the League of Nations failed. By 1939, the League of Nations failed. Now, the question you ask is, what were the factors responsible for the failure of that League of Nations? What were the factors responsible for the failure? Of course, they said that thing, though I sometimes try to disagree. One, the refusal of the United States to join the League of Nations doomed it from the beginning. The refusal of the United States to join the League of Nations doomed that organization from the beginning. League of Nations was America's baby. They created it and they refused to join. And since America was the most powerful state in the world, the presence of America would have mattered. You are doing a birthday party and you now invited the lecturer to come over. Students will behave. Compared to if lecturers were not there. And there are two different things that helped that League of Nations. Two, aggression of the member state of that League of Nations killed that organization. Aggression of the member state of that League of Nations killed that organization. The aggression of the member state actually killed. In fact, I think that's one of the most important factors that led to the death of that League of Nations. Yes, Italy invaded Ethiopia. Italy invaded Ethiopia, another member, and they were part of the League of Nations. Then Japan invaded China. Then Russia threatened Finland. Then Italy invaded Greece. The aggression of the member states actually killed that League of Nations. You've forgotten that the League of Nations does not have its own identity. It was created by states. So it can only succeed as an institution if states gave that thing the maximum support. But the states themselves were the one actually flouting the rules and regulations of that League of Nations. So the aggression of the states themselves killed that League of Nations. 3. Importantly, the League of Nations did not, now listen, because I'll end the lecture after this. The League of Nations did not outlaw warfare, unlike the UNO. The League did not outlaw warfare, unlike the UNO. The League allows you to kill your enemy after you've given them enough warning. You give them first 6 months warning. If it didn't work, Give them 3 months warning. That's 9 months. Then after that, you can go to war and destroy them. The League of Nations did not abhor warfare, unlike the UNO that banned warfare outright. So League of Nations only said you have to be fair when you're trying to destroy a state. Let them know we are coming to destroy them, that they've offended you. So you allow the League of Nations to settle it for 6 months. If it didn't work, then you give the other